Joining me on SuperTalk Mississippi is Mark LeBlond, Director of State Advocacy for the American Federation for Children. And Mark, as we start this, kind of a big story last night as the Department of Education announced it's cutting about 50% of its workforce as President Trump and the administration look to eliminate the agency altogether. Let's start there with these layoffs of 4,100 people in the Department of Education.
That's right, Scott, and thank you for having me on. Lots of big news in school choice, lots of movement, and you can see we're renovating here. We've been winning so much that haven't been able to get through the House projects. So appreciate you having me on. It's a good reminder with regard to the Department of Education, just exactly what its role is. What purpose does it serve? How has it served the American people? How has it served Mississippians? The Department of Ed was founded in 1979 during the Carter era. And what people don't realize is it accounts for less than 10% of all education spending. Most of the spending and most of the action and the activity is at the state and local levels where it should be. And so what we're seeing with President Trump and with Secretary McMahon, this rolling back and scaling back of bureaucracy and scaling back of what the federal government is doing and what the U.S. Department of Education is doing is really a good thing as we return the power to the states, to localities, and ultimately to parents where it should be.
I think so many parents just want the option of where their kids are educated. And I know that there are concerns about disparity, but I think we're seeing that already today.
We sure are, Scott. And I mean, speaking of disparity, we just saw the NAEP scores come out, a month and a half ago, showing just devastating results for parents and students as a result of the responses to the COVID pandemic. And, one of the most transformative things you can do in education, there's a lot of things you can do, right? I mean, you look at a state like Florida, where they've done really comprehensive reforms top to bottom. Mississippi has done some great work on the literacy side of things, but really the most transformative thing you can do is school choice, educational choice, return the power to the parents so they can really direct the education of their students. And we're seeing increasing action, increasing activity. We've saw wins just this legislative session in Tennessee, in Idaho, in Wyoming. President Trump is getting on board. President Trump is getting active in these states. He's tweeting at Idaho. He's tweeting at Wyoming. School choice is really it's a winning issue. It's a conservative issue, and it's a no-brainer for students and families.
In Mississippi right now, some of the opponents to school choice say that we're sending public funds to private schools, but there's no accountability there. I would argue, and tell me where I'm wrong with this, is that the accountability is not there today because we're seeing just a poor quality of education at the state level and with many states where our kids just aren't getting the education that they deserve for the amount of money that we're sending to these schools and the teachers.
That's right, Scott. In Mississippi, you're spending close to $15,000 per student. And, where is it going? It's certainly not most of it going to the classroom for the benefit of the kids. You've got in Mississippi is among the highest rate of students that are relegated to their local district school. And that's not by choice. We've got polling in-state in Mississippi showing that only about 41% of Mississippi school parents, would choose their regular public school if they could, but about 85% are in their zoned district. So Mississippi has made some good inroads. You've got a couple of targeted programs, special needs voucher, special needs ESA serving about 1,000 kids. You've got charter schools that really could be beefed up and could do a lot more. There was an open enrollment proposal that made its way through the House under Speaker Jason White's leadership. Speaker White has been a great champion for students and families, but unfortunately, it looks like that's not going anywhere in the Senate. So I'm following with great interest.
let's talk about why it's not seemingly going anywhere in the Senate. I'm going to ask you a leading question here. We're talking to Mark LeBlond from the American Federation for Children. Why, and this is going to dovetail into a conversation we had at the end of the show yesterday with Douglas Carswell. Why is the legislation going nowhere in the Senate in Mississippi?
Yeah, I'm glad you shouted out Douglas. My interest in Mississippi started a few years ago doing a joint project with Douglas and the Mississippi Policy Center. But in short, the lieutenant governor in Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann, he controls the Senate. He's the president of the Senate, so he presides over the Senate. And with legislation, it's not simply a matter of do you have the votes? It's are you going to hold it for the vote? Is it going to move in committee? Is it going to move onto the floor? And all progress seemingly has been blocked by the lieutenant governor, Delbert Hosemann. He's been opposed to school choice. I don't know why. I can't speculate as to what his motives are. Maybe you would have him on the program and ask him. But as I look at Mississippi,
after the last couple of days, I'm not sure he wants to talk with me. But sure.
Fair enough, Scott. But as I look at Mississippi, I'm going to name a few states, right? Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama. What do these all have in common? They border Mississippi, and they all offer their families robust educational choice. Every family in one of these states can have access to an education savings account to basically send their student, anywhere they want to. And you're outflanked on all sides. And eventually people are going to start moving. Parents will do a lot for the education of their children.
In Mississippi, Mark, there are a lot of rural areas that might not have private schools nearby. Transportation might be a problem. How could the charter school laws be tweaked to eliminate that problem from school choice?
Sure. It's a great question. So there's a number of things you can do. With the charter school laws, it typically comes down to the authorization process and how many schools you authorize. Oftentimes you have a situation where it's Department of Education is approving a new charter school or a district is approving a new charter school. In the case of a district approving a charter school, they're often incentivized not to do so. It's like McDonald's approving a Burger King next door. So one thing you can do in the charter space is loosen up that authorization process, for who decides. And what I mean is, I don't mean loosen the standards. I just mean create more opportunities for charters to get approved, create multiple authorizers, create an independent authorizer that doesn't have an incentive to keep new opportunities for families out. Arizona is one that's really done a lot of great things in the charter space. They have actually a 15-year term where they authorize their charter schools. They've got everything in the kitchen sink in Arizona. They've got open enrollment, charter schools, education savings accounts. Florida's another great example. And then another thing you can do for rural areas, rural parents, is just provide these education savings accounts, private choice, which actually allows existing schools to serve the families in the area, but new schools to open up. You see micro schools opening up. You can allow parents to pay for transportation. And so in places like Florida, in places like Arizona, you're seeing rural families served through school choice programs like they've never had access before.
I'm a free market guy, and I think competition works and competition drives excellence. One of the things that Vivek Ramaswamy has been talking about, and Governor Reeves has quoted Vivek on a couple of occasions, is all right, let's use this competition and incentivize teachers. Teachers unions have been opposed to school choice options. We've got about a minute here, Mark, but explain how we could perhaps compensate teachers better if they're performing better and teaching their students better.
Oh, there's plenty of opportunities. First of all, a choice environment is inherently better for teachers. It just creates better working conditions, better pay. But there's other things you can do to incentivize great teachers. I would say look at Dallas, a place like Dallas. Dallas has invoked it's a merit pay system where they pay the very best teachers, and they pay them top rate. They're paying these teachers very well, and they're actually serving students in underserved areas. So you're getting the top teachers in the areas where you need it most.
Mark LeBlond, American Federation for Children. Find him on Facebook at School Choice Now. Great conversation. It's one we'll continue to have until it gets done in Mississippi. Mark, great to have you on the show.
Appreciate you, Scott.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands.